The Sharks get smashed, crushed, devoured, beat down, whatever acronym, however you want to say it. Sharks lose 7-1 to the Seattle Kraken, and we are doing a live stream therapy session. So we'll talk about that, the future of David Quinn, and more on today's episode.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello. Welcome to a live stream edition of Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team, at least sometimes, in the Bay Area. My name is Tank Commander JD, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day, and if you want to be an everydayer, all you got to do, just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well, as we're doing a live edition therapy session number 2 for the Sharks. I want to see how many therapy sessions do we get to? Is the over under 7 for the season? Because we're already at 2. This was something as the Sharks lost 7-1 to the Seattle Kraken. And there's just a ton of crazy stats that kind of came out of this game, and we're going to get a ton of crazy stats this whole season. But my favorite stat of this game is the Sharks had one shot on goal in the second period, despite being down 5-0 for the majority of the period, as you're trying to play catch-up mode, and you at least get something going. You get one shot on goal, and at least it wasn't until it was like 18 minutes into the period. It was the Sharks offense is non-existent. That was what we would hoped this year would be something, right? If you're going to lose games, that's fine. At least make it entertaining. Can we get the offense going? Like win some, just getting some shootouts. Maybe it's like 6-3 or something, but especially when the Sharks are not at home, this team is just an abomination when it comes to manufacturing any sort of offensive zone touches, time, anything in the offensive zone. And there's this. I mean, from the jump, this team was just not prepared to play tonight. And we will have discussions about David Quinn here in a little bit, but just from the jump, and we've seen this multiple times from the Sharks this year, where as soon as the puck drops, you just know that this team is just not ready to play. And I know they're down a bunch of people. You don't have Logan Couture, et cetera, et cetera. You're playing 11. You're playing 11-7 tonight, but you're actually playing 8 defensemen. Jacob McDonald is a defenseman. And yes, I know he's played plenty of games at forward, but he's a defenseman. And you're playing 8 defensemen and you can't play any defense tonight. Like just whatever the Kraken wanted to do. In this game, they could have, I know it was 7. The Kraken rolled over. They just stopped trying at the second, halfway through the second period, because they were just like, let's just get out of here and get home to Thanksgiving, because they just stopped. They just were like, we're just not going to do anything right now. And it's, just, you have 8 defensemen playing, and you could not play an ounce of defense. And yes, there's plenty of guys who played poorly tonight, and plenty of guys who made mistakes. William Eklund included, made a mistake on a goal that was, overturned, and didn't have a good start to the game. And, that's going to happen. But this was just a complete embarrassment by the Kraken. And they saved actually the Sharks a lot of embarrassment by not just keeping it going, like we've seen teams like the Canucks and the Penguins do, where they're just like, well, we're just going to keep going because you can't stop us. the Kraken were merciful to the Sharks tonight. Like, this could have easily been another 10 spot by the Kraken if they really wanted to. Congrats to Mike Hoffman, now tied for the league lead in or tied for the team league in goals with 4. Pumping that trade value. But yeah, it's just a pathetic effort. This is what more can you say? I mean, we've seen some good efforts from the Sharks, and even the game against, the game they won against the Blues, but even again the game against the Canucks where they played hard, right? And that's a game where you're just don't have the horses, right? The Canucks are a very good team. They have a lot of talented players, and it's finally kind of clicking for them, and you have guys like Quinn Hughes and Pedersen and, JT Miller. And that team is very good. But you made it competitive, right? And the Kraken are they were a solid team last year that relied on its depth, but this year they've had a really slow start. And you just let this team run roughshod over you. Like, you let them do whatever you want. This is multiple times. We've played, what is this game, 18 or 19? 18, right? And you've had multiple games like this. The players, something has to change. And again, I've said it before, I'm said it again. I'm 1000% team tank. The Sharks should lose as many games as possible to try to get themselves in a position to draft the best player in the draft, Macklin Celebrini, or at least where you're getting a top 3 pick, right? Put yourself in that position, and you pray to the lottery balls that you end up getting that first pick. But this is inexcusable, because it is just like you're not getting anything out of it. Like, yes, you want this season to be, you want this season to be something that you can at least look, William Eklund's getting better, and we found someone with a Ho-Chuk, and maybe Kalen Addison, there's something there, and hey, look, Tomas Hertl kind of bounced back to form, and you want to be able to point to those positives. But when you're losing 5-0, 5 minutes into the second period, it's like the players are just going through the motion, and you can see that the players are just going through the motions right now. And whatever speeches and rah you're doing and trying to fire guys up, it's just not working right now. It's it's going to have to be a change made, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But you can't just point to one player being poorly, and I get the David Quinn, you bench Eklund, you're trying to teach him a lesson or trying to instill those lessons, and I get that, right? And credit to David Quinn. It wasn't like one of those things where, he was benched Eklund and we didn't see Eklund the rest of the night, or he spent the rest of the night playing with the fourth line or whatever. He quickly, by the end of the period, he quickly moved on. But it's just I don't know what to say, man. It's whatever's working, whatever's going on right now is just not working. And it's just frustrating to watch, because I want to see William Eklund progress, right? That is the most, I've said it before the season, that's the most, William Eklund is the most important person in San Jose, right? He is the first piece of your foundation for the future. And you want to make sure his future and the foundation is right. You can't build a house on a crappy foundation. His success, is not just production, right? Him playing meaningful hockey, and how can you play honest hockey when you're down 7-1 night in, night out? You can't. It's just not reasonable. So again, I want the Sharks to lose as many games for the future of the franchise. It is in their best interest to try to get a high end, the best draft pick you can in this year's draft. And Macklin Celebrini looks like the real deal. But you can't destroy whatever little foundation you have in guys like Eklund and Addison, and God, whenever Bordelot and Gushin come up, you can't just destroy their confidence and making them play these 7-1 type of games, because you're not playing real hockey at that point. You saw it tonight, right? the Kraken basically were like, we're just going to kind of control the puck and do whatever we want and make sure just play keep what you can't. That's you're basically just skating laps at this point. So we'll continue here in just a minute. We'll talk about David Quinn and if this is the time to make a decision with moving on from David Quinn. And then we'll get into some therapy session as we're doing a live stream. So if you're in the chat, please leave some message. We'll start answering you guys. I see you guys in there right now. Shout out Max hanging out with us too as well. So yeah, so we'll get to that here in just 1 second. And should the Sharks move on from David Quinn? I think it's going to be here soon, right? I know it's Thanksgiving. You're playing 3 and 4 days, but you got a game on Thursday. Game on Friday. You got a game on Saturday, and you got a game on Monday before you started a East Coast, trip and such. But I think whatever David Quinn seems like a nice guy. Every interaction I've had with him, he seems like a really nice dude. He knows more about hockey than I will. He's forgotten more about hockey than I will ever know, right? But it just seems like the message has gotten stale. And again, this team was set up to not be good, right? And poor David Quinn is going to be the fall guy for this because this team was set up to not be good. But whatever you can clearly see, because I mean, this team has scored. They've gotten shut out 3 times on the road in 8 games, and they scored 1 goal in the rest of the games on the road. And it's just constantly coming out and just not looking prepared to play. And that's coaching right there. That is coaching. That is getting your players in a position to succeed. And yes, this roster, Mike Greer, I know the saying, Mike Greer went out and bought the groceries, and these groceries are terrible. And we know these groceries are terrible. But again, look at the roster from like the Blackhawks last year. That roster was set up to fail. And like they weren't getting blown out like this night in, night out. Like you can still be a competitive, scrappy team where you see improvement night in and night out, and this team's just getting actively worse. It's like, and yes, they've had some bright spots, right? They beat the Blues the other night. They played well against the Canucks. Because you just can't keep doing this. Like, it's ridiculous. So I already see people asking when we're going to start talking about the draft. Soon. The draft talks coming soon. But yeah, just look like as Max said, just look like an NHL team. Again, we're not asking for much, right? I'm not expecting them to go on a winning streak and again, lose as many games as possible, but like, you can still be a functional team night in and night out, and teams last year, there were plenty of teams tanking last year, They'll never admit it, but there were plenty of teams tanking last year for the Bedard prize. And, but again, those teams, how often was Chicago getting blown out 10 to 1 or 10 to 2 or 7 to 1? It happens occasionally. Yes, it happens occasionally. But again, this has happened multiple. We're not even 20% into the season, and this has happened multiple times. And again, I don't know how you can continue, especially if you're Mike Greer, how you can continue to keep doing what you're doing, especially when the players haven't responded. Yes, we've had some blips. Again, we've had some blips, but they haven't responded in the way you want. And it's bad. And yes, there's plenty of other teams that have been bad. But for your future, you have to at least be somewhat competitive at some point. And so let's start answering some of your questions and start the therapy session. It is Thanksgiving Eve, especially, or if you're on the East Coast, it's already Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you who are hanging out with me tonight. But let's start the therapy session and just, let it go. Start to feel better about ourselves here. So start dropping your questions in the comments, and we'll start hanging out here soon. So, let's see. Finn says, "Turn on the game is 3-0 Warriors season baby," and it's not like the Warriors have been playing better. That's you kind of like the Warriors have been not Sharks bad, but it's been frustrating to watch the Warriors every chance I get to watch them. So, I'm asking myself why I'm saying Metsuni. I think that's how you say it. Metsuni. I'm asking myself why I stay up at 1 a.m. to watch these effortless games, East Coast time. Deviant. 1000% a deviant. So is 9 defensemen the answer from Berserker? We went the 5 forward power play. Why not the 18 man defensive unit and just don't give up any goal? Yeah. Why not? It's insane that what's going on. DE132 says the veteran players on this team are an embarrassment, and it's like, again, it's just so much just like not prepared to play. And you see again, like the Eklund benching, right? And again, good thing Quinn came, at least put Eklund back up on the first line at some point, and the lines were a hot mess tonight because of all the shuffling and everything. And I didn't even really look at the 4 lines because again, there was so many line combinations tonight. It really wasn't worth looking at the lines, but it's just like, yeah, just nobody was prepared to play tonight. So Austin Westbrook, what do you think of Torres thinking right now? I'm sure he wants to be back, right? Because that's just how hockey player, that's just like sport, you're just wired that way. You want to be back helping your teammates and thinking, you can make a difference for this. But the Sharks should 1000% not rush Couture back until he's ready to be on the ice and play up to his full capabilities, because the season's lost already. And having Couture back when you start to bring in guys like Bouchon and Bordelot and whomever that you want to bring it'll be good to have a guy like Couture can help these guys along, have him on his wing. It'll be good to have Couture, because then you can kind of spread some of these guys out and making sure that you're not just having a bunch of kids run around there. And I'm very for the having veteran presence out there with your young players, right? I think if you just have a bunch of kids running around, you need to have an adult in the room, right? But having Couture will be back, and I think he kind of knows that role. And he seems very happy to be in San Jose, and he wants to at least continue his career in San Jose right now. But I mean, at some point, he's probably going to have to start asking himself some hard questions. I don't know if that's this year or next year or coming up, about if he really, really, really wants to win a Stanley Cup, which every player does. Is he going to do that here in San Jose? And I'm don't see that happening. So, yeah. But all right, let's see some other questions here. When do we start talking about the draft? We'll probably start talking about the draft next month. We've already got some Macklin Celebrini views, but I'm sure we will kick off full-on draft coverage next month, especially with the Sharks potentially having 3 picks. New Jersey needs to get its stuff together here soon. But yeah, we will definitely be talking about the draft, full-on draft coverage, because I believe in the children, and the children are our future, as Whitney Houston once said. So I mean, Troy also said his buddy's a Rangers fan, and that's what you heard was with Quinn, with the younger players. And and again, I'm not trying to David Quinn seems like a very nice guy. Every interaction I've had with him has been, very nice, very, professional. He's answered every question I've asked him. But it's just frustrating where it feels like the younger guys are kind of the target, right? And yes, he's trying to coach and trying to teach these guys, and him being a teacher, that's what he's supposed to be, as a teacher. But it feels like the younger guys are kind of they get the brunt of it. And you don't see kind of the same treatment for some older guys. And yes, they've earned that leeway and stuff, but that's just how it feels, right or wrong, that some of these younger guys do kind of get the brunt of it. So we'll keep answering your questions here in just 1 second. All right, let's continue with the therapies. I hope you guys are feeling a little bit better. Starting to feel a little bit better. I got my turkey brining. I'm very excited for my turkey tomorrow. This is very excited for the turkey tomorrow. So, yeah, I mean, some people asking, has there been a team this bad? Like Buffalo. I mean, you always see the Buffalo. Max Miller makes the point. The Buffalo references, oh, the Sharks team has been this bad since like Buffalo or yeah, that Buffalo team is really bad. Or we see the Buffalo, we see Colorado. You see some of these other teams that were just brutal. But yeah, again, Max makes a good point. It feels, because we're watching this night in, night out, right? You're having to kind of live this every year. So every kind of night in, night out. And that's why it feels so much worse than it is. So Max, what can Quinn or Greer do right now? I think that's just where it comes to just a different voice. And again, I don't expect this team to go out and just go on like a winning streak, but the players just clearly aren't responding, right? I mean, Max, you see them. I know I probably should have had you for next time, Max. We'll get you on, but the players just aren't responding, and it's just frustrating. So yeah, I can't compare to this team, the Ducks, but like that's a good point with the Ducks. But look at that was a lot of coaching, right? They get a new coach this year, and yes, some of their younger players are becoming, kind of coming into their own. But this Ducks team is way more fun to watch, and they still have their issues. And adding Leo Carlson does help, but this Ducks team is just more fun to watch, and I think that comes down to coaching, right? The roster is pretty similar to what we saw last year, but this Ducks team is way more competitive night in, night out, and I think it's a lot to do with coaching. I think the coach they had last year was not great, and now they get what seems like a competent coach. Yes, it's very early in the season, but this Ducks team has been more competitive. I know they've lost 4 in a row now as I speak, but but they've been more competitive. They had a nice winning streak where they beat some solid teams. They beat Boston. They Philly, who's been kind of had a really nice start. Like they beat Vegas. Like that, this team is more competitive night in, night out. And again, we don't expect the Ducks to go out and be a playoff team. But again, they play hard, and they've been a much better team, more talented roster, et cetera. I know that, et cetera, but it's just been it's been a much, much better product from them. And I think a lot of that has to do with coaching. So, thank God the Barracuda are in a better state. I know the Barracuda have been so frustrating to watch too. And I missed last night's game. Of course, they score 5, but it seemed like they were doing everything they can to give away that game as well. So, but yeah, it's just a frustrating season in San Jose, because that's what you're hoping for, right? Was at least the Barracuda could be fun to watch and, be a potential playoff team. And that team just hasn't really. That team has just been blowing leads left and right. And I know they have a lot of new pieces on the blue line, but still they have a lot of veteran guys on the blue line. And it's been a frustrating watch as well. So NJ11 asks, at what point do you fire the coach? Like, obviously he's not on him, but too many times this year, the team looks cooked right from puck drop, just not ready to play. Like I said earlier, it's just, I don't think whatever Quinn's tactics or messaging or whatever he's doing is just working right now. And sometimes the coach and the players, it's just not a mesh right now. And again, I think David Quinn has plenty, I think he's a good coach. Again, he's forgotten more about hockey than I will ever know in my lifetime. But right now it just doesn't seem like a good combination between the players and the coach. So someone asked if I have Nick Carter asked, do you have a Quinn replacement in mind? I think it's Ryan Warsofsky, who has been successful everywhere he's gone in the ECHL. He was successful in AHL, and he's known for working with and developing young players, which the Sharks are going to have a lot of here really soon. I would give him a shot, especially, through the end of the year. And then if you want to this offseason, if you don't think Warsofsky's ready or the guy, then this offseason you can go look for another one. But I mean, you could basically give him a 60 game, audition right now, to try to figure something out and see if you can maybe find a young head coach who's, who can help develop and grow your team, especially a guy who has that sort of background. So, Blackwood to Edmund for Draisaitl. Yes, 1000%. So I know the Blackwood to Edmonton thing is interesting, because I keep seeing like, well, you'd have to take Campbell's contract back. And Shang wrote a really good article about this. Like, why would the Sharks do that, especially when your cap space is starting to clear up here a little bit over the next 2 years, and then you're going to throw another long-term contract on the guy who doesn't really look playable right now, at any level. I know he had a shutout the other night, but like, yeah, yeah. I mean, Blackwood's been like one of your best. I mean, if Edmonton offers everything and anything, then you could maybe think about it. But I don't know if I want to take Campbell's contract back, and that you're going to have to take Campbell's contract back. And maybe they offer you a first round pick plus for it. But yeah. Eric asked, what point does this start becoming detrimental to Eklund's development? And this, that's the thing, is like, he needs to play NHL. And I've heard that, like, we'll send him back to the AHL. He's not going to learn anything from playing the AHL. Like, he needs to play NHL games, right? He's at that point where he needs to play NHL games. But that's where, again, just playing competent hockey where you're not losing 7-1 night in, night out, where it's basically the last 20 minutes of the game are just, skating up and down the ice because the other team is basically just putting 5 guys in the defensive zone and saying, like, at the blue line, and saying, like, you're not just going to be able to do anything, or just controlling the puck the entire time. Like, you need to, yeah, again, I don't like, I'm not worried that Eklund's just going to, like, especially if the season continues the way we expect it, where Eklund's just going to be, like, this is going to break him or something. Like, Eklund's a very mature, young man, especially for his age. And, he's played some terrible situations. Go back to after he was drafted with Djurgården, who it was that team there. If I remember correctly, the GM got fired. Like, they went through like multiple coaches. That team was an awful mess that got relegated. Like, he's kind of been, as weird as it says, he's kind of been through something like this before. But again, it's just be a normal NHL team. So then let's see. Are you going to cook your turkey on the smoker? Yes. Got the Traeger all cleaned up today, ready to go. Yeah, very excited to cook my turkey on the smoker. So Bez asking the important questions here. So let's see. Got a couple more here before we finish up. Let's see. We should be hesitant to trade. Yeah, Robert says we should be hesitant to trade Blackwell because he's young and he can start for the Sharks when the team. Yeah, again, he's only 26 and he's played really good hockey on a team that's been defense. And we've seen him play really good hockey before he got traded. And it was a lot of his injuries that kind of held him back. And if Blackwood was like 29 or 30, like, I would be like, okay, but like, Blackwood's, I think he still has a lot of his best hockey in front of him. And yes, there's also very much a risk of him being, kind of getting re-injured. But I think you would have to get a lot, especially with how much of a struggle it's been for the Sharks to find some sort of goalie or answering goalie. And you found one. You found one for basically for free, right? A 6th-round pick, Castaway. I'm sure the Devils would love to have a guy like Blackwood. If Blackwood's playing the way he's right now, I'm sure they'd love to have him back in net. But it's been, again, unless you get like an offer you can't refuse, like 1st-round pick plus like a high-end prospect or multiple picks or something like that. I think you, like I said, you found something really nice in Blackwood and you didn't have to pay anything for him. So let's get out of here. Yeah. Anything else? yeah, I think that's it for you guys. So hope you guys are feeling better. That was fun. We'll see how many more of these. I'm setting you over at 7 therapy sessions tonight because it's gonna be a long season. So we'll be back on. So remember, Friday's episode will be a recap of the Canadiens game. So that won't come out until after that game. If we have any crazy news, I'm around all day tomorrow. So if we do have any crazy news about coaches or whatever, we will I'll make sure to have you guys covered on that. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Thank you to all you guys hanging out for the therapy session. It's just fun, especially when games like this, where it's just kind of, let's just talk it out, guys, and just have a good time because we're all in this together. It's going to be a long season. So we're almost a quarter of the way through. So that is going to be it. Happy Thanksgiving to all the American listeners. Enjoy your day off. Don't be careful with especially the deep fried turkey stuff. Be careful with that. Non-American listeners, enjoy a normal Thursday. We'll be back on Friday. Make sure you guys are following wherever you get podcasts. Watch on YouTube. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole and on Instagram at MyFryHole. If you want to see, I'll probably put some pictures of the turkey up there. So anyway, until then, bye, friends.